I think it's more actually the concept of mental health and mental illness that has started to formulate over years. It is really not a single episode. It is health and illness, like physical health and physical illness. We will all go through different periods throughout our life, and I think mental health and mental illness also affects all of us throughout different points in our life. Um, I think that the stigma that surrounds mental illness and mental health, though, prevents so many people from getting the help that they need. We have to work so much harder to practice mental health um, practices or tasks or to seek help, just because it is stigmatized. It's not tangible in terms of like getting lab results to prove it, but it is just as crucial um, for living and living well.
Okay, so my daughter's born prematurely and she had to stay in a NICU for over a month.
Mm.
So that was already stressful. I'm, driving back and forth to the hospital every day, twice a day, three times a day, whatever it was. The whole breastfeeding situation that was hard because, I'm didn't have her with me. So, I'm at home pumping. They're calling me, hey, we need more milk. So I'm bringing milk up there and um finally when she came home, it was just I was just in a mood, like it was just a bad mood. And I'm really, a nice person and very fun,
Mhm.
but I felt myself like kind of just like drifting off. I was just angry at the world for no reason. And no one did anything. It's just I was just upset. Like my daughter was she came early. I There was a small chance that I wouldn't have had her being able to take her home,
Mhm.
if she didn't make it. So it was a lot of emotions.
Mhm.
And the doctor was just asking me questions when I was in the hospital. And then I was released and they followed up with me later on, and everything just kind of fell out of place. And they were just like, okay, I may need to refer you to somebody, because they would like ask me questions about the baby, and it was just sometimes I just didn't want to answer anything. I just
Mm.
didn't feel like talking about it. So
Mm.
they referred me to like an outside therapist. And so I seek therapy for quite some time. It's like a couple of months. And yeah, so I had to that's a struggle. That was a big
Soon.
struggle.
And I didn't realize that I've dealt with, depression on and off since I've been a young kid. A
Mm.
kid, family just kind of being, family issues and,
Mhm.
going to schools where you were being discriminated.
Yeah,
Racism, how that affected me, kind of
that's
being the
tough.
only child, not really having a sister, not really having nobody to like hold me,
Mhm.
comfort me. I remember dealing with depression as young as the age of 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't even realize that, yeah, going to racist schools, I was called a nigger every single day. I was told that my skin was filthy. I needed to wash it every day. Uh, you know, no kid should be depressed as young as the age of 7. And
At
I
that
remember just
age.
having headaches every single day, so depressed, just so upset,
Mhm.
just and it wasn't just me. It was predominantly white and some Hispanic kids. I went to school with very racist and classist kids. Classism and
Mm.
racism at the time, me and my mom, we were struggling and everything. So I was always made to feel some way for being black and being poorer than the other kids. Always accused of something you're not doing, just being treated, just treated like you're nothing. Um, and I remember there was a couple other black kids in that entire school, and they were so mentally jacked up themselves. They were just to themselves. They were secluded. They didn't talk to nobody. It was just and sometimes I don't even like talking about it because it brings tears to my eyes. But to
No, I
have
get
been
it.
so young and to have gone through that, like even my mom would pick me up from school sometimes and her heart would just break because I was just so
Mm.
depressed.
Um, well, I was first impacted by mental illness. Growing up, my mom had mental health issues.
Mhm.
And when I knew that she had depression because she I knew that she took medication because she would talk about, oh, the side effects. Like I remember she shared how she's taking Prozac and, that one wasn't really working for her. So I knew she had depression. And then when I was 15, she went into a psych hospital. So she had a psychotic break. I came home one day from school and she had a break. And so we had to um, admit her. And so since that time, I've also seen what can happen when you don't continue working on your mental health.
Mhm.
So it's been very painful. So I've been able to identify, like, with my own therapy, that I really felt like I stopped having a mom like after age 15 because she never really came back.
Mm.
She's still alive. She's still,
Right.
she's still functioning in her own way, but she's not the same person at all.
Mhm.
And so in high school, I was feeling depressed. I don't know that I knew the word, like for it, if that's truly what I was dealing with. I just knew
Mhm.
that I was really down and couldn't seem to bring myself up out of it, and had a lot of negative thoughts, and I just seemed like I couldn't control them. And I put a lot of pressure on myself because I grew up in a conservative Christian community, and I felt the pressure of, like, if I just pray hard enough, if I just try hard
Mhm.
enough, you know, um, I'm somehow contributing or causing this. Like, well, you know what? Maybe I just wasn't as consistent enough in how much I was reading my Bible or praying and staying on top of it. So putting a lot of responsibility on myself to try to manage it. And it
Mhm.
wasn't until I got to college that I actually got a formal diagnosis and started seeing a therapist regularly and got on meds for a while. But it was tough, identifying what actually was going on. In high school, um, I didn't quite know what to do, and so I
Mhm.
self-harmed. I didn't even quite know what I was doing. I don't remember, like, having seen someone else do it or hearing about it. I just was looking for an escape to how I was feeling. I just needed a break from how I was feeling.
Mhm.
And, I knew clearly that I felt like I wasn't worthy to still be here. And I just needed a break from life.
Mhm.
um, and so, yeah, college definitely finally started addressing some things, but I remember I was paying for my own insurance coverage and I couldn't afford it anymore. And so I just had to, like, stop cold turkey everything. And it wasn't until after, because I have two children, it wasn't until after my second child, I had postpartum with both of them, that I started really, I couldn't control the negative thoughts and the anxiety. I just couldn't control it anymore. And so I did start self-harming again. And I really saw that as a huge failure because for some reason to me, um, I saw self-harming as an indication that I was out of control and I was failing at handling it. So I'm like, as long as I don't self-harm, then I'm not really that depressed. I'm not struggling all that hard. So
Mhm.
when I started doing that again, I'm like, oh, I'm not okay. And if I'm not okay, that's terrible because I have stuff to do. I have responsibilities. I can't not be okay. I have to be
Mhm.
okay. um, and so, try to find the right therapist and get on meds. And finally, I'm where I am now, where, I have a treatment plan and things that work for me. But mental health, I mean, it impacts every area of my life. It impacts my parenting, it impacts my marriage, it impacts my my friendships, my relationships. I tend to isolate and pull away because I feel a lot of shame about it because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't want to make everyone else have to deal with it. I
Right.
feel bad for my husband, even though he never complains. He's incredibly supportive. but it's more for me. I put the pressure on myself. Like, you know, if I was just strong enough and better able to manage this, then they wouldn't have to deal with it. So it's just better that I exit from the equation, from the relationship, and pull back so that they can continue to be happy. Because I don't want to spread that onto, it's like I'm thinking like I'm contagious, like I'm going to spread it
Right.
onto someone else and ruin their time. But it's always there. You know, I feel like depression is just like sitting in the room in the corner, just like, you know, watching me go about my day, just like reminding me like, okay, this is probably not going to last. And I'm just going to remind you how bad it can get, you know, just to remind you about the days that you just like can't get out of bed and you feel like every step is just laborious.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I don't know, I just think of it like as a storm cloud that's always above my head, even if it's a sunny day. It doesn't necessarily have to be raining down on me, but it's there. So I have to constantly be working at it, which is exhausting, but
Yeah.
it's worth it. And I'm still working on accepting that it's a part of me. That's one thing my therapist is really working on me with, of accepting it and not necessarily seeing it as a negative all the
Right.
time, but more as a sign of your body's telling you you need to take care of yourself, maybe slow down. And so,
Uh, well, mental illness, I was never really made aware of until more recently, but I think it was something that was with me since I was little, in the form of anxiety, different forms of anxiety, social anxiety, general. Um, Talking in situations, can be difficult, um, especially face to face. I was more comfortable on phone. Now we have texting, so I'm more comfortable that way. So it does impact, uh, making friends, business contacts as well. Um, Associating with other people at work can be difficult. We could talk about, the work related thing, fine, I'm okay with, but if it's anything personal, I don't really like talking about it very much. Um, or you wonder what people are talking about you after you walk away, or what they're thinking about you. I try to pick up on body language. It's like, what do they really think of you, kind of thing. Um, but ever since COVID started, all of us in our family really started listening to ourselves. You know, maybe I really do have an anxiety issue. Maybe I should get that checked out. And I did. And they recommend, the normal things to start with, such as keeping busy, going for walks, going for bike rides, walking away when a certain situation stresses you out. Just walk away from that situation and regather your thoughts, basically, which is what I've been doing.
Mental illness has impacted my life tremendously, in both indirectly and directly. I think with grief, it was like more gradual and kind of unaware of it. And so with that, you kind of start getting depressed and you start not wanting to do something, or you just going through the different stages of grief. And that just is a part of your, mental health. Like then it starts to become a illness. And then after a while, if you don't recognize it, then one day you're just not getting up. Like you're not getting up out of the bed. Like you just don't. It's like, what? Like, I don't feel like it. Or your body is heavy. Like your body just won't get up. You just be like, you roll over, like you still can't get up, but you still can't get up. And it's just like a mental push that you kind of have to kind of always kind of be in check. It's kind of like a therapeutic thing. And I think with that, mental illness has definitely impacted me. And I've been very aware of my emotional and mental stability, because depending on life experiences, it's a fine line between being mentally healthy and then mentally not healthy. It's just how you do it and how you resolve conflict. But also I've been thinking about it indirectly, because I've had friends that commit suicide, and you think that, they're okay because you're talking and joking, but they're not. And it's kind of like, how do you know? Like, you just have to kind of like mentally check in with somebody, really actually go below, deeper than the surface. Like, yes, have laughs, yes, go out, but mentally be like, are you all right? And not, and that's a hard question for people to really answer, because everybody's going to be like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, I'm out here bothering, I'm lost. Like, you know what I'm saying? But you be out busting and crying in the car.
It's made me very shielded. Like I don't trust people a lot. It's I don't know, like when you have mental health issues, like it's not talked about like that. So when you do talk about it, people often dismiss it with, "Oh, I'll pay for you" or something. And I know people mean well, so it just makes me more shielded. I don't really talk a lot, and not about that part aspect of myself anyway. So I feel like I have to have this like wall up, and not that, I can't be my full self in front of a lot of people because I'm afraid that either a they'll do people either go to the latter, either they'll ignore it or they'll just try to be too helpful and they're not really being helpful, but they really think they are. So I still feel the need to just shield.
Just to give a little background about who I am, I'm Carlos. I actually just last year recently left the mental health world. I was a program manager for a nonprofit agency that specialized, my department specialized in working with the homeless populations, the ones that were the most severe and needed the most help. And from there, I was able to also conduct therapy with clients and with my staff as well. So I was there for about maybe 3.5 to 4 years. I started from the bottom, leveled up. I was program manager for kind of like 2 different departments at one time, holding it down, doing a great job. I was excelling. My team was doing great. Everybody doing fine. And then one day there was a time where we had a change in our department. And change is great. I'm all for change, but this change just kind of hit me a little bit different. And I remember having a conversation with one of my directors, and she kind of was just asking me questions about like, are you taking care of yourself? And what are you doing? I'm like, yeah,
right.
Like, of course I am. And so she would ask me constantly every day, and I was kind of being like, well, I am, And so one day she said, and she was just like, I really want to talk to you. Like, I really just need to really talk to you and have a serious conversation. I'm like, oh, what does this mean? So she says to me, and I share this with everybody because the shit really touched me. She said to me, how are you taking care of yourself? I'm like, I do this, I do that, I do this. And she's like, okay, that's good and everything. She's like, but you got to picture yourself as if you were a glass on the shelf, right? Like you were glass on the shelf. And so she's like, this is the glass on the shelf. This is the front of you. You didn't dust it off and everything, but I think that you're forgetting to turn the glass around and dust off the back. Done. I mean, I was, I didn't think about that. And my mental health illness was, I was disregarding my needs. On paper, it looked great. If you looked at me on paper, I had it all. I had the career, I had the money, I had everything I wanted. And in books, on paper, it looked great. But my mental health was suffering and I did not know that. And so it took me about maybe 3 weeks. And I told myself, like, I gotta leave. I can't stay in this atmosphere. It's been all these years and I haven't even took care of myself. So I quit my job. Gave it 2 weeks notice. I didn't leave on bad terms. I left. Then I'm gone, right? So I'm working on myself. I'm doing all these things. Everything's great. 2 months later, I go back to the same job, different department, same level of responsibilities, a little higher in pay. But I'm back in the same atmosphere. I worked on me for 2 months. So I'm back there. Everything's great. I triggered right away. I had one incident with somebody, triggered me right away. I'm like, tap out, I'm quitting. So now I quit my job. I'm depressed. I fucking hate life. I feel like I felt my kids and my wife. I felt myself and everything is against the grain. So now I'm depressed. Now I'm the client, right? It took for me to honestly to look in the mirror and say, you need help. Like you need to take care of yourself. You need somebody to help you take care of you. And in the Black community, that's just, it's really ironic that I'm a therapist, but even in back of my head, it's like, I'm a good therapist, but I don't trust nobody else, So it was hard for me to let loose and let go of like, they're going to tell my business and they're going to judge me. So I just started off with myself, and I had to dive deep into really find out what was wrong with me. And what was wrong with me was that I felt like I was never good enough for the people I was pleasing. So then I turned into like all these questioning in myself and am I doing the right thing? So what happened was that I realized that my mental health was being impacted because I was taking care of everybody else's needs. And whatever people needed from me, I gave 150%. But when it came to Carlos, I only gave about maybe 10%. And so it took me a year. Like I'm coming up on about a year and a month now, to where I can say to myself, I feel better. You know, I feel like I'm taking care of myself. I lost weight. You know, I got a puppy.
It is something that everyone deals with, whether or not it's diagnosed or labeled. Everyone deals with mental health and mental health struggles. Not everyone's willing to accept it or label it.
Accept help, but don't be afraid to express like things that you're going through, because this is life, and no one should judge you on anything that you're feeling, because you're a human being and you have feelings, and you're not always happy, you're not always sad, you go through emotions. So just express it and don't be afraid to.
Yeah, that's when I started, praying. Started praying around 14. And that is the person, God is the person who pulled me out of that depression. It was just me and God. Nobody else. It was nobody. Never went to therapy, never did none of that. It was just me and God. That's it. And I'll tell anybody, yes, you can go to therapy, you can try meds if you need to, but you sprinkle some Jesus on there, you're set.
Right. Right.
You need to have that spirituality, you need to have that connection. Spirituality affects so many things, and spirituality is so good for I'll tell anybody, listen, people think, oh, churchgoers, they're stuck up, they're arrogant, they live in la la land. Listen, when you crack open that Bible, when you start praying to God, people have gone through a lot to get to God. And sometimes you're supposed to go through a lot so you can get to God and have that strong faith. Because God is very real. He's always with you. All you got to do is reach out. So I'll tell anybody, get on your knees and pray. Sometimes you may not get the answer right away. Sometimes you may get the answer 3, 6, 7 years later. But remain faithful.
You just, you want people to know they're not alone out there. And I feel very, very strongly about that as well. And maybe it's because I tend to isolate, especially when, if I'm like going through a depressive episode, but it's just so important for me for people to not feel alone also out there in the world. And I feel like people show you the side of you they want you to see. So I'm like, check on your friends, check on your strong friends, check on your single friends, your everybody friends, like check in with each other for real, because you don't know what people are
going through,
dealing with. So
something I've been saying actually a lot is, stick with the people that like already love you and your family, and go by what they say. Don't worry about what strangers say and friends and acquaintances, because it really doesn't matter. Focus on yourself first and your family, and you'll get where you want to go. And just set aside what everyone else is thinking, because it's not always that they're jealous or anything. It's just that they don't understand. They don't really know where you want to go. Only you know where you want to be headed to.
The best advice I could give you guys is, please, I know y'all mean well, but please, for everything, for the love of God, for the love of the universe, please stop telling us just be strong. And please, because when you tell that, like, oh, are you saying you're strong? Because I don't think you guys realize when you say that to us, in our heads, like the way mental health works with us, is we perceive that as, I am strong. Why are you telling me this? Or am I not strong enough? You make us doubt ourselves, and it just goes down this spiral. So I would say educate yourselves more, because the things you guys think you're saying that are helpful are actually the exact opposite. And, saying out, oh, just pray on it, that really doesn't help neither, because prayer is just the first step. So there needs to be other steps. And you guys, like, I know you think you're being helpful, but it's not like, it's really not. So really have tools to help us more, like, resources for mental health centers or therapists, and, just more tools, not, just something that sounds nice. Because to me, it just really makes me think you guys are making yourselves feel better, because it doesn't do anything.
I feel like as a spiritual person, give God a chance. Like, you may have been dealt a bad hand. You may have been through some very terrible times. You may have had great loss. Like, give yourself a chance. Like, give yourself a fighting chance. Be around people that are loving on you. Eat good food. You know what I'm saying? Drink good wine. Do things that make you feel good. Right. You know what I'm saying? You know, watch a good show that uplifts you. Don't be, you know what I'm saying? If you got a relationship issue, don't be watching loving hip hop. Like, really you gonna really like watch more toxicity and be like, yeah, I knew, you know what I'm saying, I knew it was like that, I knew everybody like that. Not everybody is like that. You got to give yourself the best shot, and I had to learn that.
For anybody who is dealing with any type of mental health or any form of distress in their life, to just take a moment to acknowledge that you matter and that you should be your own priority. And once that's acknowledged, then you can start to receive the help that you need, because you got to be ready to receive the help first.